All right, you've made your little scene in Blender by just using some of the techniques that I've shown you in the previous videos. And now you want to get that out onto a digital painting tool, your Photoshop or whatever, and do the paintover. So you might want to get a render that looks like this. So I'm going to go ahead and close that render result here and show you what I've done. And I want to give you a bunch of other little tips here as well on various ways in which you can populate your scene here. We're going to do that first. And then I'll go and show you how to get these kind of simple render views out that still retain things like shadows or things that you can even overlay edges with. They can help make your paintovers in your digital painting tool a little easier. So this little scene here, the reason why it looks all sort of blurry is that what I've really done is I've knocked the samples down in both the viewport and in the render image down to 12. I mean, they're normally 1K and 4K in there, so 1080 and so on. 12 is like, what? Well, that's because I've got the denoisers turned on and I can get away with that. So you don't get this really noisy image, but I can just turn on the denoiser and yes, it gives this kind of like muddy, blurry kind of watercolor effect on there. And that's okay for what we're doing because all we really need to do is take this in and just throw it into a multiply layer in Photoshop and use that to maybe add in some little shadows, give us, work out our perspective ahead of time in Blender. Let Blender do the complicated perspective and then we get to come in and have fun painting and all the little details. So let me show you a couple of different ways to do that. But first, let me show you how I got this prop furniture. I mean, I have sort of libraries of my own things that I've been collecting over years. But if we want to just jump online to Fab, and Fab has become what Sketchfab was. I used to do this with Sketchfab, and I'm just going to type in the search bar chair. I've already done that over here, and that's actually going to give me like these results over here. And I found this chair, which has a couple of good things about it and a couple of problems with it. And I'll show you how to deal with both of those. I checked the free box over here. Please just use free stuff for class projects and things. Don't buy anything unless you're like super excited about it and it's cheap or whatever. Knock yourself out, but you don't need to buy anything. Certainly not for what we're doing here with the paintover. You could do something super simple. In fact, you could even just make a little chair and then draw in the details back in Photoshop or whatever. But let's assume we want this kind of little ladder back chair here. I'm going to grab this free chair, which has some pros and cons to it, which we'll discover when we bring it into Blender, but we'll deal with those in a second. I'm going to come down here to the download button. I'm going to click on that, and you'll notice that this is by default an OBJ. That's a wavefront OBJ file format. It's a very common file format. There's also FBX. You need FBX if you're going to be sending things into Unreal. But the one that I actually recommend that you use for Blender is this one here, the GLTF. It has a couple of things. Sometimes there's way too many parents, and there's little empty null objects or whatever that are scattered all over the place that you have to deal with. But in most cases, the GLTF file format is great because you can just import that and the textures come in perfectly and there's no nonsense. A lot of times with some of the other file formats, you have to go in and manually bring in the textures and rebuild the materials and all that kind of thing. So I recommend this. Although you can turn on any one of these. I'm actually not going to download this because I've already downloaded it. I'm going to jump back into Blender over here and I'll just show you that if you don't have those, you can come over here to the preferences window and just type in import. And then you're going to get all the various different kinds. I don't have them all turned on, but the ones that I use all the time are turned on. So if you don't see what you're looking for, like FBX, I don't know if that's on by default. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. Pretty much anything that you can find, there's an import here in Blender. So we'll go ahead and do that. But one thing we got to do beforehand, I'm going to go back and find my downloads folder over here. So where's my downloads folder? And I noticed that you do have to right click on here and say extract all. You do need to extract the file to get this folder. So Blender can't find the files to import if they're still packed away in there. But that's all you need to do. So now over here, I'm going to come up to the File menu, and I'm going to come down to Import, not Export. I've done this more than once, where I've gone in here and accidentally grabbed Export and then grabbed the file format that I want. And then what I'm actually doing is rewriting this scene onto that file. And then like, what happened to my chair? Where did it go? Well, I just overwrote it. So it's really easy to do that. Make sure you're on the Import side and come over here and say GLTF, and then I'm going to go to my downloads and I'm going to find that chair. And this is the one we want to grab right here. Just that scene one with a little cube. Then it just takes a second to pop into the scene. Now I've noticed here, let me go back to the material preview. There's a couple things going on with this chair. I'm like, why does it look so orange? Well, the reason it looks orange, if I just hit the question mark / key to get into local view, is that it's a photo scan, which is fine. Photo scans are great, except there's usually way more mesh than we actually need. And in many cases, the mesh comes in as like loose broken pieces. pieces, so you don't want to do that. So let me show you how to fix this. The good thing about this is not only did it bring in the textures and the materials perfectly, it also brought it in the right scale. It's another thing that you'll run into a lot. Different software is working in different scales. So a lot of times you bring in your sofa or whatever, and it's like, I can't see it. Well, it's because it's huge. It's like 1,000 times too big or whatever. It was drawn in millimeters, and Blender's looking for meters. And so before you click on anything, hit your S key, and then I usually use like 0.01. And even if it's still way too big, at least it's small enough so I can actually see it, so you can shrink it down to put it on your screen. To solve this like fragmented problem, just click on any chunk of the mesh over here, and then hit the A key to select all or box select around it. And then we're going to say Control J to join. You can also right click and say join, and you can see how it's turned that all into one mesh, except it's left a million little fragments in here that we can clean up. I'm gonna hit the tab key to get into edit mode right over here, and you can see this actually is like, if I zoom in, the mesh is pretty dense over here, but every place where all of those little meshes were overlapping, there's vertices now that are overlapping that we don't need. So I can hit the M key, M for merge. Merge by distance is the one that we want. That just says basically any vertices that are overlapping, that are touching each other, just melt those two together. And if I click on that, it's going to think for a second, and then down at the bottom of the screen, you'll see, in this case, it took out like a whole lot, like over 1.8 million vertices. That's way too dense. This mesh is way too dense. But look, it brought the number of vertices down to a very manageable scene. We could always throw a decimate modifier on this and cut it in half again. It'd probably be fine, but let's not worry about that for right now. I'm just going to hit the tab key to get out of the object mode, and I'm going to hit the question mark key there, and now I've got my chair. And the nice thing about that is I can come down here and I can just grab it, and I can move it around to the scene wherever I want. Now I'm going to go back over here to this actual shading viewport and see, oh, look, that chair, like everything else in the scene, has now got this kind of like clay white material on here. And the reason for that is that I went ahead and made a basic material. I think I just took the default material. Let me just grab a wall here that I know has it. Grabbing the material tab, you can see it. Oh, I didn't even bother to name it. Just material. I made it kind of a taupey gray color here. It is super simple, but it's called material. In fact, let me just call this material clay or something like that, so we can see it there. So clay. Okay. So the way I've got this on everything without having to go in and overpaint each or delete the materials or replace, it's a pain in the butt. And I might want to render this out later with the actual textures on it. I don't want to take them off the models. So there's a couple of different ways to do this. One I learned really recently, I'm shocked that I didn't know this earlier, is that if we come over here to the View Layer tab, and I'm going to close all of these folders over here, we want to find this one that says Override. Go ahead and go to the View Layers, look like a stack of pictures, find this little override, and you can see I've already got mine set to, I just changed the name to clay. If I pop this open, I can say like, oh, okay, well, what about chair? And if I were to do that and let it render, well, it's just taken one of these chairs material and it's just put it on everything, and it looks kind of silly. But you can do that with anything. You can select a material and then just use that material as the override material, regardless of what other materials are assigned to those objects. Just be careful that you don't change the sample. I mean, you can, it's fine. If you change the sample to anything other than 0, as the tooltip there says, it's going to use that number as the number of samples. So I was still rendering at full 4K renders when I first turned this on, and then I was getting something that looks like what I got now, this kind of blurry, like, what the hell happened? Because somehow I think I just bumped this up to 1 or something, and then it was just giving 1 render sample. That's fine, but just don't be startled by that. Otherwise, it's going to use whatever you tell it to in here, which is 12, which is not much more than 1. So that's not a big deal. But now when I go ahead and hit F12 to render that out, we'll give it a second. And it just takes literally a second to render that, or a couple of seconds to render that, because I've set the samples so low. The denoiser does a great job of clearing up all the noise. And we get a really clean render image. So now I can come over here to image, and I can say save, and I can bring this into Photoshop, and I can do whatever I want with this. So there's that. But there's a couple of other ways that we can do this. I'm just going to minimize that. We can also come up over here from cycles. There's a kind of a fast way of getting that by going over here to Workbench, although I really recommend that you save before you mess around with Workbench lately. I've noticed that Workbench, like messing in here, just makes a kind of a poof crash in Blender. Like, whoa, what happened? I just clicked a button and then it crashed. So I'm not sure what's going on with the Workbench. Make sure you save it. You should be fine, but I'm going to come over here. Oh, look, there you go. Exactly like that. Give me a second and I'll be right back. So I was wondering if maybe because I had the render window open that's what caused it to crash. Or I don't know. I can't figure out why it's crashing when I do that, but I just reopened it. My chair is missing. Oh well. But so I was wise to warn you to go ahead and save it before you start messing around in here. But now I can click on down on the matte cap and I get this whole range of them, and you can choose like different color types, different tones. You can make it look like red clay, or you can make everything look like I don't know, whatever, orange, whatever. You can knock yourself out and add these. You can even do normal maps with this. You can actually render out, bake out normal maps using this little field down over here. But we can just come down over here too. Maybe we'll do this like brown one. So if you want this kind of like sepia tone one, now when I hit F12, that's the render result I actually get from that is because it's actually rendering out that scene. I'm rendering this with the Workbench engine, so I'm getting this kind of monotone look on here. Okay, and the last one that I want to talk about here is I'll go back over here to Eevee for this, and we're getting a really horrible result in Eevee because we don't have any light in the scene besides the sun, and there's no bouncing. I've got the settings really low, so it doesn't look great. But that's okay because we're going to use another way of drawing lines on top of this, and I'm probably going to have to stop and think about this 6 times because, like in Blender, there's so many like really cool features. There's no like simple button. So the first thing I'm going to do is come over here to the passes. Oh, and by the way, this is another thing to really check out. You can look, you can have a mist pass, you can have a depth pass. That's what that Z pass is. You can have a whole bunch of these things that render out as individual layers, and then you can bring each one of those layers. So you can render out all your shadows or all your fog or whatever on a separate layer, and then control them independently. That's really useful to do. I'm not going to go into that right now, but that's another thing to definitely check into. So what we need to do is, turn on. Yeah, here's one of the things I forgot to do. I'm going to go back to the render tab. And I'm going to come down here. I'm going to close a couple of these big ones. And I'm going to look for freestyle down over here. I'm going to turn on that little freestyle box right down there at the bottom. It can be on absolute or relative. That you'll discover what those mean. But just leave it on absolute for now. We just need to turn it on. And again, turning it on is way down here in the bottom drawer. And then now we need to go back up to the top of the with the view layers over here. And we need to find freestyle. And then we also need to check this box here, which is as render pass. This won't work if you forget to check that box. Again, these things are really simple, except for the tiny little box that you have to check that means nothing works. But down over here, there's a whole lot of power. I'm not even going to touch like 10% of what you can do down over here. All this kind of sketchy, cartoon shaded, whatever, that all comes down over here. So right now I'm just going to use the default line set. I'm just going to say, please just draw the silhouette, the crease, and the border. But you have all these different things that you can do. We can come down here and change the color. We might change the color too. I oftentimes will make this like a lighter gray instead of just black, but you can make it any color you want. All kinds of different things that you can do. Little jitters and alphas. You can add textures so it looks like you're drawing on cold pressed toothy paper or whatever. Lots of really fun things that you can do with this here. But just turning this on and getting this render, we're going to go over here to the compositing tab over here, and I'm going to hit this F12 just to get out a render. We need to get a render into the scene, so I'm going to go and close that right now. I'm going to check the use node box, and if everything went well, sometimes you have to just kind of redo things with the compositor. You should get this little preview of your render here out of this little render tab. But because we checked that box that says render as a pass, we have this little freestyle pass down over here, so we can do some of these things. And unfortunately, I have to just do Shift A and search for viewer because the keyboard shortcut to add that is not Control Shift and left click doesn't work with my recording software, so I've got to do that. So now what I'm going to do over here is say Shift A, and I'm going to add a mix color. So there's a mix color shader, and then I'm going to take the output of the freestyle into the bottom of that image. I'm just going to deselect that for now. From the composite, and then I'm going to put this guy into the image here, and then I'm also, so we can see what we're doing, I'm going to go and put that into the viewer as well, and then I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to yell at the monitor because I forgot another little toggle button here. Turning on that little alpha channel on there needs to be turned on right there on that mix shader for this to work. And you can see the render output. Let me move some of these guys out of the way. The render output that we get is this nice little cartoony style. So you might have to re-render, hit your F12 button again, or go up to render and re-render if you don't see anything happen. And also remember to click the little alpha channel there so that you get the black. Otherwise, it's going to be black on black and you're not going to see anything. That's what happened a second ago when I paused. I'm like, what happened? Oh, one more tiny little thing to check. So this is a kind of a great result here. So now if I were to go ahead and say, I'm going to render that out, it's going to give me a second to think about it. And right now it's going to give me the composite result. Remember, you can do the view layer. That's going to show me what the regular output from Eevee was. And I'm going to come back over here and do the combined, or I can do each one of these things individually. Oh, and this one, notice it's on a transparent background. That's a nice little feature to do too. So I'm just going to hit that re-render there, and I'll get the composite output from that. I had to re-render it again to get the composite back from there, so I don't know. But now I'm going to go over here and say save, and then I'm just going to go to my desktop here and I'll save this, and then I'll be right back in Photoshop. Okay, so now here's that little render result with the line art. Again, any of the other ones that I showed you will also work the way I'm about to show you, but I just used the last one that we did. Right now, when you open something up in Photoshop, it's automatically on the background layer. So if you just come over here and like right click on this and say layer from background, if I just do that, it's just going to create a new layer. I'm going to say, okay, it's going to turn that background layer into an adjustable layer because we need that because we want to put what we're painting on underneath this. So I'm going to come down and add a new layer to that. I'm going to just make sure that that one is below layer 0 on here, and I'm going to select layer 0. I'm going to switch this from normal to multiply. You can do a lot of other ones as well, but typically you want this like normal and multiply. So now when I come over here, I've got some blue loaded onto my brush here, and I'm going to come down here to layer 1. I'm going to be painting underneath this, and now you can see I can paint underneath the scene, leaving those lines up on top. So because this layer is on top, multiplying on top of that, I can see what I'm painting on, and I'm getting kind of like painting underneath the black lines without painting over them. If I go over here onto this layer, let me just hide that layer. If I go onto the main layer and paint on, like I'm just painting over it, and it's now like on that layer, and there's nothing I can do about that. So once you're all done with that, you can then either just hide that other layer. If you've painted all to the point where you don't need the lines on top, you can do that, or you can come up to that top layer and you can like knock the opacity of those lines way down. Maybe you just want a little bit of the lines. You can also come in, sometimes I'll come in and I'll erase just with the eraser tool areas that are on the highlight side. Let's say, our light's coming in from the window. So if I were to come in with the eraser and I can just make it slightly smaller, and I would just come over here and like I would erase you got to be careful with. That's one thing without doing it with the alpha channel. Remember, that was one of the options we could do, just the lines. That way we don't get all the gray fill. But yeah, now I'm also erasing the white as well. But what I can do is just come over here and erase any place that I don't want a black line because it's getting a highlight on there, right? I probably painted this chair how I want it to look. I'm going to erase the black lines. Maybe the black lines like right down the middle of the seams. I don't need those. If I've toned this wall a little brighter than this wall because the sun's coming in here, I can like actually erase some of these extra lines, and then you can just use it in places where you need it. Places like, I want to just leave all of these little slats in the chair in there because it's like super handy to kind of differentiate that. I don't have to go in and paint all those with a little tiny brush. So those are the places where you can use it to your advantage, and you can get some really good results. So lots of different ways to get artwork out of Blender and bring it into Photoshop for your paint over. Again, you don't have to use this freestyle line art thing. It's kind of a pain in the butt. You can just use the workbench. You can just use that little material override trick. There's a lot of ways that you can get something that you can use as the guide for all of your perspective and all of your little props and details that you're bringing in, and just get to the fun part, get to the coloring, get to the drawing and the details bit without having to worry about like, are these windows the right perspective or whatever. So hopefully those will be useful tools for you to use.